I'm sure it won't.
I did.
All right, we already are in open session, so we're going to stand for the moment of silence.
You just
Pledge
said.
allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next part of the agenda would be the recognition of visitors, but I don't believe anybody's here to speak to us, so we'll move on to presentations to the board, which no one from student council is here, so Mr. Spring, for the Galesburg High School North.
Want me up here, Dr. Asplin?
Wherever you want to be,
I don't know how
buddy.
all this camera stuff works, so I don't know if you need me up here.
Just speak into the microphone.
Speak into the microphone. We might walk around a little bit, but okay. Well, good evening. Thanks for letting me be here tonight. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about GHS North, kind of where we've been and where we'd like to go. It's hard to believe we're getting ready to start our 10th year already. This will be my 8th year as principal at North. Give you a little brief history. North opened in the fall of 2009. About 11 and a half years ago, our district saw a need. Graduation rate was declining, dropout rate was increasing, and they decided to open an alternative school. The school is open to be a dropout prevention school, a credit recovery school. The selection criteria that we use to pick students to come to North are kids who are behind in credits, kids who have attendance issues, kids, we're seeing a lot of kids with anxiety issues, teen parents or soon-to-be teen parents, and then I put et cetera, because there's lots of other issues that kids have these days that come to North with. In our first 9 years, we've graduated 328 kids. Our graduates make up 12 to 15% of the 205 graduation rate. I'll show you something on that here in just a minute. And then I did some figures over the weekend looking at past lists of graduates, and 35 to 42% of our graduates are African American or of Hispanic ethnicity. Before you is a chart that shows. I'll walk around here a second, and I apologize if you can't see too well. In the red that's spring numbers from 2009, so that's before we opened, and the graduation rate at Galesburg High School then was 76.5%. You can see that the dropout rate was 13.3. In the fall of 2009, we opened. They had about 50 students, and that year they graduated 19. The following year, you can see how the graduation rate has risen. In 2011, they graduated 42 kids, but for some reason the graduation rate had a little dip there. I took over in the fall of 2011, so my first graduating class was the year of 2012, and you can see we graduated 45 and so on. You can see how the graduation rate has increased. In 2015, when we hit 86.6, I was sharing this with Dr. Asplin this morning. As far as we can tell in the research that we've done, that was the highest graduation rate that Galesburg High School in District 205 has had in over 25 years. And you can see in 2016, that was our last year at Old North. That year we had a tremendous year. We graduated 47 kids, and the district graduation rate rose to 88.5. We then moved to New North in the high school, and as you know, for the last couple of years, we haven't been fully staffed, but we were still able in 2017 to graduate 38 kids, and the graduation rate dipped a little bit to 87%. And then this past spring, we graduated 39, and we'll have those numbers later on this fall. I'm really proud of all of the numbers of kids that we've graduated. But I'll tell you, the last couple of years have been a struggle, but with the staff that I've had, we've worked really hard to get those kids graduated.
What are the headers in the other columns?
Okay, this is low income. I'm sorry, Maura. I'll send
Of your the Hall High School of your
This is the district.
District.
Yep. So low income, attendance percentage, mobility, chronic truants, and then the high school dropout rate, high school graduation rate, and then number of GHS North graduates.
So the chronic truants is a percentage or a raw
This
number?
is on the interactive school report card. So I just took it down.
That's a,
So,
is that,
Chronic truants is,
go on.
chronic truants should be a number. It should be a number. Does it say N up there, or does it say percentage?
It says percent, so that's how it's listed on there. So.
Yeah, it should be a number, well, it's
Can't be
typically,
40.
Well, okay, so it's a number based on the student population, so it's like, yeah, that's how we figured it.
yeah.
It's a huge jump. 10%.
Yeah.
Was the definitions changed?
No,
Did we change how we were?
the definitions will
identifying
change this
students?
next year, but no, in that amount of time, no.
Huh. Sort of anomaly, 10% increase.
Next slide. So how the graduation rate impact, so I used the 2017 numbers. That year, we had a graduation rate in District 205 of 87%. We had total graduates, 306, and that's Galesburg High School and Galesburg High School North. And that year, we graduated 38. So that year, we made up 12.4% of the graduation rate. If you didn't have those North graduates, take 87% minus 12.4, you'd have a graduation rate of 74.6.
That assumes that none of them would be graduating though. And we really can't make that assumption.
I can make that assumption. I know our kids, I can tell you that, we talked about this past year, of the 39 that we had, we came up with one that would have graduated from Galesburg High School. Some keys to our success. First and foremost has been our staff, and I'm thankful that Jordan McDonald's here tonight. He's been with us for 9.5 years out of our, well, it'd be 8.5 years, going on to be 9.5. He stayed all this year, took a little time off from us, so I razz him about quite a bit. But our partnerships that we've developed over our first 9 years, and I'm not going to read them to you, but a couple there that I do want to highlight, and if you've been at our graduation, you know I speak on this. The two churches that have kind of adopted us, First Lutheran Church with the birthday cake, I call it the birthday cake outreach program, where every kid gets a birthday cake on his birthday, handmade for them, delivered by one of the church members, and it's a custom-made cake, so if a kid wants chocolate with vanilla frosting and sprinkles, that's what he gets. They've been tremendous, and then they provide us with graduation cakes. And then Trinity Lutheran Church every year adopts us with their angel tree at Christmas time and always providing food for our food pantry. So just tremendous community support there. So that's kind of where we've been, and tonight I want to talk to you about where we want to go. I've met with Dr. Asplin a couple times, and we've talked a little bit about this. But so what I did was we looked at the focus areas of District 205, and I looked at focus area number 1, the relevant skills that lead to employability. And as you know, the last couple of years, our attendance rate hasn't been the greatest. And part of that problem kind of goes with focus area 3, addressing the social and emotional needs of our kids. But a lot of our kids, they work. And some of our kids were working 30 to 40 hours a week. And sometimes they have to choose work over school to help, support the family at home and pay the rent or make the car payments or take care of their own children. So one idea that we had was to install our own co-op program where our kids can learn that school to work connection and be able to earn high school credit, for being a good employee. We've kind of reached out to some employers in town, and one thing that we're hearing from them is that they're starving for good workers. I can tell you that 7 years ago, I graduated 42 kids, and Bond Construction called me. They were looking for a laborer. And I went through, he said, I know you just graduated 42 kids. Do you have somebody? Here's what I need. I need somebody that has transportation. And as soon as he said that, I couldn't give him a name of anybody because none of my kids at that time had, reliable transportation. But so that group of kids missed out on a tremendous opportunity that summer to be a laborer for him and to learn those, valuable skills that could have, propelled them into maybe a career in construction. So we know that our workforce is starving for good employees. One thing that I want to do is we want to be able to teach these kids employability skills, the ability to communicate and teamwork and the willingness to learn problem solving, decision making, self-management. And I'm going to talk to you about a position that that we really need at North. And I'm going to talk to you about that in just a second. I'm going to talk to you about the focus area number 3, and that's responding to the changing needs of our community. We've got to do a better job of addressing the social emotional needs of our kids. We run an alternative program, and I don't have anybody on staff anymore to be able to help those kids to deal with life and the day-to-day struggles that these kids bring. Many of you sitting at the table are former educators, and you know about at-risk kids. They come to us with a lot of struggles, with a lot of baggage from time to time, and sometimes it's just even their basic needs aren't being met. Food and shelter and clothing, health care, personal hygiene, and those are things that we try to help take care of at North. And if we don't take care of those, the social emotional needs, then kids turn to other things. And we know they turn to drugs, they turn to violence, crime, reckless behavior. I can't tell you how many kids smoke marijuana, and when I sit and talk with them in my office, and I ask, why do you do that? Because I've lost 4 students in the last 4 years, and they all had marijuana ties to them. And I ask, why do you do that when you know it's, you know, especially since they've had families that have struggled with drug use, and they say, because the time that I'm on that, I don't got to think about all the other crap in my life. And we as a staff, we try to help these kids to make better choices and to give them other alternatives than to using drugs. Because as I just said, I have lost 4 students in the last 4.5 years. And 3 out of those 4 were to gun violence, but they all had marijuana ties. We need somebody that can help us to be able to just sit and talk with kids and help them get through the day, so that we use an old term, kick them back into play. So that whatever happened at home that day, we can, you know, help them through that, then we can get them back into English class. I'm going to talk to you about my staffing needs. An idea that I have is that a position that I think is desperately needed, and we can call it something else, but this is what I came up with: a college, career, and life readiness coordinator. What does that mean? The college aspect of that. We do have a number of students who are college bound and go to college now. The other night at graduation, we recognized 3 of our kids who had just graduated from Sandburg, and one of the young men was Sebastian Hannigan, and he came up to me after we had recognized him after the ceremony, and he said, "Yeah, I wanted to tell you, in the fall I'm going to Knox." And I said, "A North grad going to go to Knox?" And I said, I was just blown away because I wasn't smart enough to even get into Knox. That's why I went to Monmouth College and played football there. You know? But he wants to go be a social studies teacher, one of our North grads. But this person would help these kids identify and assist college-bound students. They'd help them fill out their FAFSA. So many of our kids, we've done this in the past. You know, their parents have never done these things before, so that it's all new to them, and they need guidance with that. Take them on college visits. Link them with the students with support out at the colleges, so that those kids can have an opportunity to be successful. The career portion of this position helps students develop the employability skills that we talked about. Identify and work with local employers willing to partner with us. Establish criteria for meeting the threshold where they could earn high school credit. Organize monthly assemblies to bring in businesses to talk about the positions that they have available, the skill sets that required, you know, to be successful in that position. Talk about the pay and the benefits. This person would also work with the supervisors of these kids so that they could kind of intervene early. So if the student's kind of messing up before he gets fired, they might be able to have an opportunity to retrain that student. And then the last piece is the life readiness piece. And I think, you know, of this whole position, I think that's what we really want, is our kids to be life ready. Teach these kids life skills, some consumer ed basics. You know, we all take consumer ed, and I think that's the best class a kid takes in high school. But it still needs to be reinforced, because when I was growing up, my folks taught me all these things. You know, I got to watch my dad for 39 years wake up every day, put his feet on the floor, and go work at Butler Manufacturing. So I learned about work ethic and about, you know, the skills that it takes to be a good employee. But so many of our kids don't have that opportunity. Teach them about character education, about being a good person and taking care of each other. Address their social emotional needs. Help them with conflict resolution. I want to organize presentations from experts. And what do I mean by that? Bring in an insurance agent and talk to them about what insurance you need on your automobile and maybe what you don't need. Bring in an investment banker. We did this a few years ago, and I talked to these kids about, if you just put a little bit of money away, what compounding interest looks like, and the kids' eyes get huge on that. Bring in an auto mechanic to show kids how to change a tire, or change the oil, or just simple, you know, car maintenance. You can see up here, for the last 2 years, we haven't had a math teacher, and I have really, really good news to bring to you tonight. On Thursday, I interviewed a young man. He's not a young man, he's my age. We're getting old now, I guess. But he accepted the position on Friday. I'll have his name for you at the August board meeting, so I'm really excited about that. But we still have social studies and science open. I have some candidates. I come back to work next Thursday, but I'll be getting in contact with these folks soon, set up some interviews. And then the last one is the online curriculum coordinator, which was formerly the Apex coordinator. And I have a question mark on that because we're still kind of trying to figure out what we want to do there. Lastly, in closing, I'm sure sad that Member Statham's not here tonight, but hopefully he'll maybe get to see this, or I'll share it with him. 2 years ago, Member Statham, during the board meeting where we made some decisions on some budget cuts and things like that, he was sorry to have to, when the North positions and things came up, he was sorry to have to be voting for those things because he said that what we had at North right then was a Cadillac program. We were doing good things, we were fully staffed, and he said, but in times of financial struggle, sometimes you can't drive a Cadillac, sometimes you gotta drive a Chevy. And I tell you, I was, I don't know, a little put off by that because we worked so hard to build that team that we had there. But the more I got to thinking about it, you see, my in-laws are farmers and I farm with them, and on the farm we drive Chevy trucks. And 25 years ago, I was indoctrinated that tractors are green and that Chevy is king. And the reason we drive Chevy trucks is because they're tough, they're durable, they're dependable, they're hardworking, and if they're maintained, they're going to last you a long time. And that's what GHS North means to me. We're tough, durable, dependable, hardworking, and right now we just need a little bit of maintenance so that, you know, we can get back to being great. And my final thing that I want to say is that's what we want to do. We just want to get back to being great. I want to be able to have a program that every one of you sitting at the table is proud of, and that when people talk to you about District 205 and you list all the things that you're proud of that we do in this district, that you'll say, you know what, we have a great alternative program that meets the needs of these kids, and man, those needs are ever increasing, but they do a great job working with those kids, and we're just really proud of that. So with that, thank you very much. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. GHS North started 2 years before I retired, and as a counselor, I had the opportunity to recommend students for the program, and I would agree that probably the students you're talking about, you could pretty much guarantee that they wouldn't have graduated, because the students that I recommended, none of whom were, there were attendance issues, there were anxiety issues, there were lots of other issues, but none of them were really discipline issues.
Right.
But they were on the verge of dropping out, and it was all I could do to convince them to take that step, to talk to the principal at North, at least sit down and talk to them and see what opportunities and see what you think. So those students that I recommended were going to drop anyway.
Yep.
And they might have come back to GHS,
Right.
but as we know, once a student gets to that age when they can drop out,
Yeah.
that's kind of far along,
Right.
and they don't often come back.
Correct.
So I just wanted to make that comment because my experience with those students, they were the ones that if they hadn't had some other alternative,
Right.
they would have dropped.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
So, Jason, with the staffing, what does fully staffed mean at that entity?
What would fully staffed mean for
What does
me?
fully staffed mean?
Just, well, the positions that we're missing right now, more science, social studies, depending on what we're gonna do with the online thing. And then really, you know, what I really need is that a person who can help us, you know, to meet those social emotional needs, help us, you know, this co-op type program that we're talking about. That's the piece that we're missing. You know, the guys, the people I have returning, they're all in. I mean, we'll do whatever. Jordan McDonald is my English teacher, but he helps kids with math. He helps them with whatever, you know. We got great people there, but we just got a couple missing pieces that we've got to get if we want to continue to, you know, to get back to being great.
And the online coordinator,
Yeah.
is that something that we're voting on yet, or what is the status of
Well, we've
that?
always had that. It was called the Apex Coordinator.
Okay.
Okay. We're looking, this spring, we started looking at some different online offerings, different companies, just to see what else is out there. So that's why it doesn't say Apex Coordinator, because we might be
So
bringing.
you're still looking to fill that position?
Yeah, possibly, yes.
Potentially. We had a resignation, so
Right.
every resignation gives you an opportunity to reevaluate the position. So at this point, at this moment in time, I don't believe we have it posted.
Correct. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You good?
Okay, moving on to item 6, approval of consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I so moved.
I second.
Any questions or discussion?
Klein,
Yes.
Pickrell.
Aye.
Sherby.
Aye.
Banks.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Glassman.
Yes.
While we approved it, can I ask Jen one question there? When I looked at the fund balance now, I'm not gonna borrow your glasses now. Are we where we want to be in terms of the amount of reserves that we voted on? Or are we still below that?
No, we're still significantly below that. It's going to take quite a bit of time for us to get back to that 180 days of working cash on hand. So we'll know more specific numbers once we have the audit completed for this year.
And when you say significant, we're talking about weeks or years?
Years.
So we're years away from getting that 180?
Yes. Yes,
But it is trending in the right direction.
yes.
Which is up, right?
Yes, the right direction, more money, yes.
Because right now, we're at, what, 4 million out of 40 million, that we only have 10% or something like that, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, and just understand that, that's, it depends on when tax money comes in too, so it's a lot more illustrative to look at it once you get the annual financial report, because it'll compare it, they'll smooth it over a year and you'll get those averages, so, it's any 1 month snapshot is important, but it's gonna be a lot better picture once you get the annual financial report.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 7, the focus area number 1, relevant skills that lead to employability. Item A, administrative report on curriculum. Dr. Aspen.
Thank you. So, as we all know, we have a standing curriculum committee, and we also have a soon-to-be full-time curriculum director who's sitting in the back row that Maureen doesn't want to exist. I know, it's a good thing. There'd be a back row. So
Back
she's sitting
row
in
could be
that
10 feet
back
further
row.
closer.
Anyway, so next month she'll be sitting up here. So very soon then, we will be having, Mrs. Springer will be working with the curriculum committee to review all of the curriculum that the teachers have worked on over the past year, and so that will be coming up over the next few months.
Sounds great, can't wait. Item B, special education report, Dr. Mashad.
Special education, we're just kind of doing all our summer projects, processing senior files, doing the grants and odds and end things, preparing for next year, and trying to find staff.
Thank you. Agenda item 8, focus area number 2, facilities that assist in skill acquisition. Item A, consider, or,
Bilingual
parent advisory.
well, I was told that do I need to report? Do we need to?
No, it's
Since
just
it's
past year.
just a
Yeah.
bully report, so, okay. Oh, sorry, do you have anything you want to say?
No, not much really.
Okay, well, thank you for including something for this month's agenda, since we're, not really having much else to read there, so thank you. Moving on. Consider approval of proposal to provide professional architectural services. One motion.
You need a motion.
I so move.
Yeah.
I second.
Questions or discussion? Did you want to add?
Mrs. Han? So last month, we approved the architect. What is this involved? What does this allow us to do at this point then?
So when you're approving architectural services, you first have to approve the architect, and then you come back and you approve the fee schedule. Because with professional services like an architect, you want the one that is most qualified and best suited for your job, not necessarily the lowest bidder, like we look at for other services typically within a school district. So that's what we're looking at tonight. We're looking at the scope of work that Leggett is going to be contracted to perform in terms of the building utilization study, and then what the fees for those services are going to be. And this is actually, they're going to take the work that we had initially done with Phillips and Associates, and they're basically building on that work that we had started. So when there was the change in the board, we sort of stopped that process so the new board could get seated, kind of get some knowledge of what was going on in the district, and this is why we're picking it up basically a year later. But they're kind of using that as the foundation and building on that.
Thank you.
What funds this?
This will come out of health, life, safety for
Really?
this work.
And that fund is sufficient
Yes.
revenue to cover this?
Yes.
And in one part, it says the fee includes architectural, interior design, civil engineering, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. As indicated, all their consultant services are excluded. For example, if we get into, let's say, the auditorium at the high school, and we need an acoustic engineer,
Right.
that would be an extra fee.
That would be an extra fee that we would pay on top of this, correct? So we want to make sure, depending on what the scope of work looks like, that we don't necessarily contract those services right now. Maybe we won't need an acoustical engineer. But if we do, then we can purchase those services on top of it.
It doesn't have to be with them.
No.
There may be a specialist out there.
Well, it wouldn't be with Leggett. They wouldn't have an acoustical engineer on staff, so they would help us find a
Okay.
contractor that specializes in that field.
Just so everybody understands, Health, Life, Safety Funds, that fund is established 60 years ago because of a fire in a school in Chicago, actually a private school.
60 years ago.
It was the 56, I think. Anyway, those funds are restricted only for work that is designated by architects to do that. So it's like cracks in the sidewalk to asbestos in the walls to, whatever it has to do to make sure that your buildings are safe for the students and the employees. So those funds can only be used for things like this. So.
Nothing else?
Peckrell?
Aye.
Sherby?
Aye.
Thanks.
Aye.
Glassman? Aye. Klein?
Yes.
Item B, update on district building projects. Mrs. Ham.
Well, we don't have a lot of building projects going on, other than the Silas Wheeler parking lot. If anyone has been
They
by.
poured the curb, I saw.
Yes, we have curbs. And actually, I got an email today, they're gonna be starting to pour the sidewalk that will go from the playground on the east side to where the new bus pickup will be. So that'll be starting in the next couple of weeks. They've patched the JHS high school parking lot, and we're just waiting our turn in line for the refinishing company to come down and redo the parking lot. Maintenance has worked on a tremendous number of projects this summer. If you've been by Steele School, they've demoed the entire playground, and we're getting that prepped and ready. It should be here to be installed the first part of August, because our intention is to have the playground ready when our students begin, and on August 22nd, I believe is our first day of school. And so, so the projects that we have going on are going well, and it's kind of nice to not have big contractors and big projects going on this summer, so that we can do some of that preventative maintenance that's needed on our buildings this summer.
And the intention of that parking lot is to be a faculty parking lot at Willard?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes, it should open up the front of the building, which is kind of a smaller parking lot for visitors and parents.
And it becomes pretty congested, so.
Are there plans to change the directions on Pfeiffer? Is that going to be a two-way, or is it going to continue to be a one-way here?
So it's going to continue to be a one-way. We met with the city a couple times over the last few years and talked about different scenarios, whether it would be better to open that back up to two-way traffic. And they're pretty adamant that leaving it the one-way traffic pattern that currently there is probably best in their opinion. The one thing they did ask for was that we create that sidewalk over on the Willard side, on the east side of the school, and have the bus traffic through there. So we're hoping with being able to reroute that around that we won't have some of the backups.
Well, and also we're changing the directional flow on the west side. So it did go from north to south, and now it'll go from south to north. And
In our parking lot, not on the, yeah.
Right, and then we're adding some curving, so you can't be going east on Fremont to turn into that. You have to be going, you have to be heading west. So that will hopefully lengthen out a lot of our traffic flow in that area, and use the streetlights in the neighborhoods to try to lengthen out a lot of those lines, so that you're not sitting out there at the corner of Seminary and Fremont for 25 minutes waiting to get through. It really should greatly improve the traffic flow in that area. And students should be able to get out on the right side, so they're not having to cross in front of cars to get out. It's going to be much safer. And we'll have a communication piece for all the parents there, once we get it done, to let them know how it'll change.
Thank you. Focus area number 3, responding to the changing needs of our community. Item A, consider approval of bread bid.
Do we need a motion?
Need a
I
motion,
so
second.
move that we accept the bid for the bread.
I second the motion.
Mrs. Ham?
If you see the document that's attached, the bread bids came in, and actually there was no change in our bread bid. It will be with Aunt Millie's this year, with a total bid of $15,558.95. And once again, that was a 0% increase for this year.
Questions? Discussion?
Sherby?
Aye.
Thanks.
Aye.
Glassovich? Aye. Lyon?
Yes.
Pickrell?
Aye. Moving on to item B, consider approval of milk bid. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Ham?
The low bid for milk this year came in from Prairie Farms. We did see a 4.25% increase in the milk bid from last year, so we're looking at a total bid of $118,100.13. And we only had one other bid from, I think it's pronounced it Enert. Is it Enert?
I've never heard of that before.
Okay.
No, their product, it's the Swiss Valley.
Okay,
It's the same company. It's the parent company.
okay. And just as kind of a related side note, the 2018 to 2019 school year will, we will have all of our K through 8 buildings, we anticipate being CPE schools. So,
Which stands for?
CEP, it's Community Eligibility Program.
Right, CEP.
Sorry, I said CPE, Community Eligibility Program, which means that all of our students, K through 8, will receive free lunch in the buildings. So that approval should come in at the end of the month, but we don't see any reason why we wouldn't be approved for all CEP schools.
It's good news.
That's very good news.
It's still sort of hurtful that we sell 2.5 times as much chocolate milk as white milk. Sugar sells.
Anything else?
Thanks.
Aye.
Glassovich? Yes. Lyon?
Yes.
Pickrell?
Aye.
Sherby?
Aye.
Item C, consider approval of agreement with Carl Sandburg College for dual credits. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Asplin?
Thank you. This is a yearly arrangement. This has nothing to do with all the discussion and the policy we've had over the last few months about this. You have to partner with a school to be able to provide dual credit, so that's all this is. We've been doing this for years, so there's no substantive changes at all.
Questions, discussion? Allison?
Thanks.
Aye.
Glassovich? Aye. Lyon?
Yes.
Pickrell?
Aye.
Sherby?
Aye.
Item D, consider approval of self-insured stop loss renewal. Motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Mrs. Ham?
We're asking tonight that the board approve our stop loss carrier for the 2018-19 year, which would be Symetra again. We did see our rates increase by about $70,000 from the previous year, but that was to be expected as we made some adjustments to our processing. One of the things that, although this is a significant increase to the stop loss premium, we weren't able to add a no laser clause, in essence, to the stop loss coverage, which would prevent them from what they call lasering out certain categories of employees or certain individual employees who may have had high claims. And this is one of the things that a lot of the stop loss companies do. So for us, because we could potentially have some high cost claims in the future based on our experience, this is very beneficial because then we would be responsible for paying the claims regardless of what the amount was on those individual employees. So let's say that, I'll take myself as an example, let's say that Symetra decided to laser me out and I had to have a kidney transplant. And it was $500,000. The district medical insurance plan would be responsible for paying that entire $500,000, not just the $80,000 deductible that we basically have at this point with Symetra.
But isn't that what they sell? How can they get away from what they're trying to sell us?
Well, because if there's individuals that repeatedly over time have high claims from year to year, in order for you to keep this coverage for the majority of your employees, they'll laser out certain employees and say, we'll take all of your employees except for these 3, because potentially they may have really high claims in the future. So paying for this no laser feature is actually extremely beneficial considering some of the claims that we've had in the past. And we're trying to get a handle, looking forward on what that exposure is going to be. So it is a lot, but considering, like I said, some of our experience, this is a much needed protection for the district plan.
The costs from this come from the,
This comes from the Medical Insurance Trust.
Well, and because we made a change in the insurance in December, there really wasn't a way to bid out this plan for this year. So next year, we absolutely will bid this out, because then they'll have 12 months, actually 15 to 18 months of claims that we'll be able to get multiple bidders on. But bidders are skittish to come out and bid on things, and they got 4 months, 3 months of claims. So we needed to keep it where it was for one more year just because of the timing. But next year, we absolutely will bid this part out.
how many companies participate in this kind of insurance?
I know about 5 off the top of my
Okay,
head.
so we have multiple options.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you. Allison?
Glassman?
Yes.
Lyon?
Yes.
Pepperell?
Aye.
Sharpie?
Aye.
Thanks.
Aye.
Item E, consider approval of press policies, first reading, motion to, it's just the first reading though, right?
Mhm.
Okay, motion to approve.
Can I, before we discuss?
We have to do the motion.
All right.
Yeah, they can always withdraw.
Okay,
So yeah, we need a motion in a
yeah.
second.
So moved.
Second.
Now.
I'd like to empower our policy committee to review this and bring a recommendation to us. Because that's why we started that committee, right? To review policies?
Dr. Ashman?
Yeah, absolutely. If there's
I mean,
nothing in
you're gonna
there,
find yourself.
there's nothing in there that would preclude the policy committee from holding off and meeting separately on this and making a recommendation. So a lot of that was because we just gone through them all, and I just got back from vacation. So we put them on there, and they were on my desk when I got here. So we can absolutely do that. And
There's no crisis.
there,
there.
no, I've read them all, and you're welcome. And
Yeah, bring your own, I saw that one, yeah.
Right. There's nothing in there that's gonna change anything we're doing right now. Whether we change them or approve them, whatever, I mean, they're just, most of them are footnotes. So we can absolutely empower the policy committee to do this and bring it back in August for first reading. That's not a problem, at all.
Who's the policy committee?
Vicki and myself.
Would you take on that, Terrence?
We'll see. Summer. Well, like you said, though, there's not much in this one anyways to discuss or,
No, now, we could also approve it on first reading, the committee can meet, can make recommendations for revision, and you could then approve it on second reading next month too. That's easy.
that sounds, that's why
I
I'd
mean,
like
that's why we have it for a lengthy period of time, so.
to do that.
And you can just approve it in voice vote this time because you're not doing anything.
Is that okay?
You're the committee.
Well, I know, but doing it that way instead of.
I think
just
I think it
withdrawing
makes sense to empower a committee to have some involvement in our voting on policies.
And I want to add, in case anybody clicks the link on these things, there is a policy on there, and the board knows what I'm gonna say here. There is a policy on there about school uniforms. I was not recommending that we include that one. I just want, it's in there, so if somebody clicks on it, goes, they're adopting school uniforms. Guys, Matt, Nick, we're not, don't report on them.
I thought seersucker's a good look, though.
Well, that might be the new administrative uniform. I mean, if we can get one of those straw top hats.
I have
with
one.
it, do you?
Yeah.
We can get like
Skid row.
14 more, then I think we're set.
Okay,
So we just
So
vote
we're
to
gonna
approve
vote
tonight on
to
first reading.
So there are some other policies there I don't think we have. Like the APP, do we have? What do we have?
No, I don't, those aren't policies, those are administrative procedures.
Okay.
Those are not included in either of the E's, those are exhibits.
Okay, so we can do a,
All in favor?
all in favor.
Yes.
Opposed?
Oh, sorry. I can see everyone in that.
All right, moving on to item 10, personnel. Consider approval of personnel reports. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved?
Second.
Dr. Asplin.
You have the personnel report in front of you. If there are any questions, I can certainly hope to try to answer them, but otherwise,
Now, if we have a hard time filling a position, someone resigns, can we just not accept the resignation?
actually, no, that's something that, I would encourage the board to reconsider. I asked last year, you don't really need to approve resignations. I mean, you can acknowledge resignations. Technically,
well.
once they get to me, they're pretty much official. We're a right-to-work state, labor state. So, if somebody submits their resignation, other than some narrow band, I mean, if somebody is resigning in the middle of the year to go teach somewhere else, that's a different set of circumstances. That's covered in case law. So, no, if they resign,
All right.
they've resigned. So, any questions about anything on the agenda for tonight? There are a lot. It's a summer, so that's kind of normal.
Nothing else?
Pastor Yes. Lyon?
Yes.
Pickrell?
Aye.
Sherpy?
Aye.
Banks?
Yes.
Okay,
Trying to fill the positions.
moving right along. Comments by the Board of Education. Member Banks.
No comments.
Member Lyon.
Well, I'm glad that as the sole representative of our negotiating committee here right now, I'd say that we're meeting regularly, and I think we're having fruitful discussions, and hopefully we'll have something someday to bring to the community, and bring to the board.
That's good. Thank you. Member Glasnovich.
Have none.
Member Sherby.
No comment.
I don't either, so the next thing is the future agenda items.
Yeah, does anybody have anything they want to be put on for the board to consider in future months?
Okay,